I can legally work in Japan.
ありがとうございます。
Hello and welcome to this episode of Tripology. I'm Alun and I'm here with the ever kawaii Adam.
Thank you ever so much, mate. That's one of my favourite adjectives so far.
It's not one of my favourite adjectives. Want to know why? It's because I said, Adam, what shall I call you in Japanese? And you, being the Japanese expert that you are, said, why not flump for kawaii? What does it mean?
It means cute. Things that are cute, things that, you know what it's like, Japanese cartoons. There is this very strange culture that exists in Japan where they like fluffy animals and I don't know, like cartoon characters with big bulging eyes, puppy dog eyes and that sort of stuff. All that kind of thing is referred to as kawaii. Maybe if you're going into a cafe, for example, and there are some beautiful little kittens there, you say, oh, kawaii.
Well, there is something cute about you. Don't disagree. And I know a lot of our listeners vehemently agree with that statement. But why on earth are we talking about Japan? And in order to answer that question, I have to turn the time turner thrisely and go back when I was in Brazil. I was feeling ever so much 30 years old, and I was looking over my list of travel achievements. Oh, remember the time where I jumped into the Nile? Remember the time where I came face to face with that chimpanzee? I was thinking back on all the things that I've done, and I thought, God, you know what really is missing from my journey is a good stint in the beautiful country of Japan.
Yeah, it's amazing, mate. I mean, I'll be honest, it's one of the best countries I've been to, if we can say that sort of stuff. I absolutely love it. I've been there 3 times in the last 4 years. I'm somewhat of an addict. And to be honest with you, mate, I'm quite surprised you've left it this long.
Yeah, and you're constantly there. And that serves as a reminder to me of my own inadequacies when it comes to visiting that beautiful nation. So I was in Brazil. I was feeling like, God, I really want to go to Japan. I looked at the prices and I was like, I actually can't go to Japan unless Tripology suddenly becomes the world's biggest travel podcast in a manner much more sudden than we're currently working towards. At the moment, it's slow growth, baby. So, you know, I thought, God, how am I going to do that? And just out of curiosity, melancholy curiosity, because I thought there's no chance, I Googled working holiday visas in Japan and I was shocked, absolutely shocked to find that you could apply anytime before your 31st birthday.
Okay, I mean, that's already a good start. Did you have any other visas to choose from at all?
It was a choice. The only working holiday visas that I can apply for now at my age Japanese working holiday visa and the South Korean working holiday visa. So it's between those two. I thought, wow, what a great opportunity to visit Japan. I know that you can't tell from my sun-damaged skin and beard, but I am actually young enough to do that. Why not fill out the application form? So I came back to the UK specifically to get that application in before my 31st birthday, and I've been living that process out for the last few weeks.
I mean, you're certainly the right man to ask because it is so fresh, because you have perhaps been successful, but I had a very negative experience when I was applying for my Japanese visa, because you'll be able to tell me, correct me if you can, I was refused a Japanese working holiday visa, not because of my age, but because I wasn't living in the UK 12 months prior to applying.
Yeah, and that story, like a famous Adam story, being refused the Japanese working holiday visa, was weighing heavy in my mind. I actually reached out to a couple of tripologists who I know have been applying for working holiday visas in Japan, and they told me that they both were turned away and invited back and had to reapply at a later date because of various things that were wrong with their application. There's a real distinction, Adam, between the working holidays I've done in the past, and I've been to Australia, Canada, New Zealand, all of those were shared this thing. They were extraordinarily expensive. I don't want to say extraordinarily expensive. They are affordable. But how much was your New Zealand working holiday visa that you're currently using?
800 New Zealand dollars.
So that's expensive, right?
Yeah, that's roughly 400 quid, something like that. Plus all the time you put in, you've got to go up to the, an approved doctor's surgery to get a medical and all that sort of stuff. So it gets pretty expensive. But yeah, we're talking probably not much change out of $1,000.
It's a hefty fee. Very, very worth it in my opinion. And then a lot of bureaucratic documents. You've got to do your medical examination. You've got to do police checks and that sort of thing as well, yeah?
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. And do you know what? When I applied for my New Zealand visa, I had just come back after being approved my PR for Canada. So I already had been through all of those checks within the last 6 months or something, because you've got to go to a doctor's, you've got to get your lungs tested and go for a medical and, get your biometrics done and all this sort of stuff. So I already had all of those results back. And I sort of said to the New Zealand government, the authorities, you like Canada, don't you?
Oh, we don't trust those Canadian police checks, mate. Not worth the paper they're reading on.
Is it not like a share of information, like PR for Canada, it's within 6 months, probably the same. And they were like, no, we don't use the same doctors. There's a New Zealand approved doctor up in London and it costs you an arm and a leg. So go and do that, please. We will not accept anything else. And I don't doubt that the Japanese process was any different.
Well, you should doubt it, because I'm about to tell you something. The Japanese visa is completely different. The focus is not on bureaucracy of any kind. There's very, very little in the way of I've got to check you haven't got tuberculosis and make sure that the police aren't after you. What the Japanese visa process cares most about is your passion and desire to visit Japan as a fan of the country, as someone who wants to visit. The visa fee is 16 British pounds, and that's the only money that changes hands. It's the cheapest working holiday visa I've ever even thought about applying for, and I've thought about applying for some fucking working holiday visas in my time. So that's a beautiful surprise, isn't it?
16 English pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, I am gobsmacked. Why don't more people know about this? £16. What can you even get in the UK for £16?
I literally paid for my visa and had change to buy a coffee on my way back to the train station. It was quite amazing.
That was only 4 times less expensive.
Exactly. Let me talk to you about the visa application process, Adam, because my feeling of what it would be like and what it was actually like was entirely different. There's a series of documents that you have to prepare. And I know this sounds like, but I miss tropology stories. This is a tropology story. It's interesting. Just listen. So you've got an application form, and your visa fee.
Okay.
And bank statements proving that you can survive whilst you're in Japan.
Okay. And is there sort of an amount of money, a threshold that they're looking for, either Japanese yen or US dollars? Yeah,
it goes down. It fluctuates depending on whether you have your outbound and return flights or whether you don't. But you need, I think it's something like £6,000, but I don't know the number directly off the top of my head.
How many passion points do you have to prove?
Yeah, the amount of passion that you have for the country fluctuates with the amount of money in your bank account. If you've got a lot of money but you're not very passionate, you've got a better chance than someone who's got a mere penny and a boat full of passion. Right, so...
That's class. Okay, so yeah, organisation.
That's the sum total of the bureaucracy, though. The other documents are more about you and what you're like. You've got to do a full CV.
Right.
You've got to do a full 12-month breakdown of what you intend to do whilst you're in the country. And then you've got to write a personal statement declaring why you want to live in Japan for a year.
I mean, I absolutely love it. It certainly makes it more personal. And one has to assume that it's because there is going to be an individual, a human with a brain, reading your application, digesting everything you've spent hours and hours writing, I imagine, and then making a decision as to whether you are successful or not.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to assume that someone's going through with a fine Japanese tooth comb and thinking, is this person the kind of person that we want to live in the country for a year? Now, I took a holistic approach to this whole thing. I looked at what was going on in Japan, what I'd quite like to do.
Yeah.
I inputted a list of activities into ChatGPT and I said, I want to do this, 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 and this. Build me a 12-month itinerary so that, I can hand that to the Japanese embassy. Do you think that's an ethical approach? I think it's just smart use of the tools available to me.
Totally. I mean, I'm here with my mouth open going, oh my God, I never would have thought of that. I would have spent, I would have wasted hours probably producing something that's far worse, in all honesty.
An itinerary done months in advance of when you intend to go to a country that has to be so rigid as to include a monthly breakdown can only ever be a rough plan. So basically I thought, this is exactly what ChatGPT is designed for. I'll give it a list of things that I want to do and let it flesh out a breakdown. And I actually think it was so effective, I might use it more to plan trips in the future.
Oh, really?
That's a great thing, isn't it? If I say, hey, I'm really interested in hiking, I'm really interested in live music, I'm really interested in food, I want to start in Tokyo and finish in Tokyo, and I've got 12 months, give me a month-by-month breakdown of what I should do. I mean, that's so valid, isn't it? Really useful.
No, that is incredibly useful. I mean, it would have taken even someone who had lived in Japan for a long time, possibly someone who even worked in Japanese tourism, quite a long time to give you something that would be as good, perhaps, tailor it to your interests. But I don't know whether... I don't want to say anything too negative, because we love Japan, we love Japanese people and Japanese culture. However, I do think that asking someone to produce a 12-month itinerary is somewhat redundant, and I would have thought they probably know that. Do you think that in these types of situations, when there is a lot of admin involved, I sometimes feel like they're trying to make the process so difficult and arduous that it puts some people off?
Yeah, I agree with you to some extent. I think there's a number of reasons why they make it like that. One of them, I think, is generally to catch people out who are just sort of applying for the wrong reasons, or maybe don't quite know what they're applying for. One of the things about the working holiday visa is that the work is supposed to be supplementary to the holiday.
Right.
You're supposed to be like traveling around Japan and doing a little bit of work. And they're trying to catch you out. If you go like, here's my 12-month itinerary, I'm going to be working in a cafe in Tokyo. And they're like, no, that's not what it's for.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of basically a way of getting tabs on what is your intentions here,
Okay, so in terms of what you were writing down, how close was it to what you actually wanted to do, or were you trying to second guess what you thought the authorities wanted to hear?
Well, I think at the very least, like, AI has provided me with a framework that it's not going to be unuseful. I can look through that little itinerary and pick out bits like, yeah, maybe I want to do that, maybe I want to do this. And it doesn't have to be such a rigid thing. I can kind of like use it to inform some of the things I might like to do while I'm sojourning about the country.
Yeah, I'm jealous. Well, you have to share the itinerary with me, because I've done a little bit around Japan. It'd be interesting to see whether ChatGPT recommends anything that I've done, and then I can second that, sort of an AI-AC combo.
There's only one thing better than AI, and that's when you combine it with the knowledge of you that's already been there. And the two of you, AI and Adam, can combine to make a sort of Japanese megalithic pool of data. There's one other part of the visa that I want to talk about, mate, and that's the personal statement. That's the bit where you say, to whom it may concern, this is why I want to go to Japan. And that's a big old long process in itself that I want to talk about. But first, we've got to go on a brief meditation break.
I hate arriving at an airport and needing to prove I have an onward ticket before boarding the plane.
Oh, it's the worst. I don't know when I'm going to leave the country. Okay, I'm a traveller.
That's why instead of buying a flight, we use a flight rental service.
Yeah, it's so convenient. You just find a flight, rent it for 48 hours, show it to the assistant, they let you on the plane.
Onwardticket.com, they're a great company. Click the link in the description. Support the podcast.
Like a Mancunian rapping on the door of the Japanese consulate in Edinburgh, allow your conscious mind to return into your brain. Adam, I'm halfway through my Japanese working holiday visa application, and I've just finished the 12-month itinerary.
was that a bow?
What is a bow?
A bow. Yeah, well, it's a type of steamed bun, I guess, if we're going to talk about the food, that's often filled with pork belly. But I thought you were literally bowing forward as you said the words working holiday visa. Maybe this Japanese application process is rubbing off on you.
Oh, like I'm showing respect for the process by leaning forward into the camera. Yes, perhaps it's a subconscious thing. I have been immersing in Japanese culture over the last little while. Adam, I had to write a personal statement, and I did that, right? I said, to whom it may concern, I really, really want to go to Japan because I I tried to put a lot of myself into that. I was like, I love hiking, I love nature, I love travel, I love food and cuisine, and Japanese food and cuisine has always fascinated me. And I wrote this full A4 page personal statement, and I sent it to some tropologists and said, hey, do you think this is along the right track? And they said to me, when they applied for their working holiday visa, they were turned away and had to make another appointment because their personal statement, basically they said, you can do hiking anywhere, you can do surfing anywhere, you can do skiing anywhere. So why do you specifically want to come to Japan?
Oh, I mean, that is a good piece of advice, because obviously what we can deduct from that is that you have to make it so specific to Japan. And Japan, the country, definitely focus on things that you can only do in Japan and things that Japan is known for.
Yeah, so I changed it. I was like, that piece of advice forced me to go hyper personal. And I was like, ever since I was a kid playing The Legend of Zelda on the N64, I developed this love for the Japanese art style and Japanese music. And it really actually forced me to go into myself and write a really personal statement in a way that I think was really useful and made me more excited about Japan. And I think that in a lot of ways, the way they've pitched this whole working visa process does kind of get you excited in a way that the Canadian application or the New Zealand or the Australian one didn't.
Yeah. I mean, ChatGPT is not getting a look in. There's no way that ChatGPT could come up with a personal statement like that specific. And I think that's wicked. I think the fact that you're already so invested through the application process as a result of this personal statement, I guess it gets you to sort of go sort of introspective and you think, actually, yeah, what is it I love about Japan? And that's only going to pull out really positive things. So go on then.
Yeah, I actually have mad respect for the way they've set it up because it's affordable so that anyone can do it. It's so not prohibitive, and it's all about what is your personal relationship with this country that means you're going to be a respectful, curious traveler. And that's what cultural exchange and traveling in that way is all about. They've distilled down the reasons why I think someone should want to do a working holiday visa and forced you to ponder that as part of the application process.
Yeah, I mean, they flipped it on its head. I'm like really quickly in real time trying to think about what it is about Japan. What would I write in that letter, for example? I mean, I'm worried that I would just come up with a lot of the same things that everyone else would. So how long did it take you to write this letter?
I would say I spent a weekend doing the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Putting my CV up to date, doing the itinerary, getting the personal statement. So it was a good weekend of work, really figuring out how to do it. It's such a shame that you never got the opportunity to actually get to that part of the process, because I think you'd have such good things to say. Japan means so much to you. I think you'd write such a great personal statement.
Yeah, I mean, the way I talk about Japan and the way that I describe Japan to people who've never been there is that it seems so familiar in so many ways, but with like a Japanese filter over the top of it, for lack of a better word. I mean, I can guarantee you that when you get to Japan, it will be exactly as you imagine it. And I think I mean that in the best way possible. Everything that you've seen, all of the content, all of the media surrounding it, old films, the way that it's portrayed, the style, the fashion, the anime, all this kind of stuff. Is that sort of an area that interests you at all, anime and manga? Because unlike most Japanese fanatics, even though I've seen quite a few anime films, some of them we've seen together, haven't we?
Yeah, we have watched a few together. Yeah,
that's very nice indeed. Then, I haven't really flirted with that sort of stuff too much, even though that is a very important part of the culture. And there are some neighborhoods in Tokyo that are completely overrun by people in cosplay outfits and, these secondhand shops selling these Game Boys and PlayStations and Nintendos from like the 80s.
It interests me in the sense that, I used to watch Pokemon when I was a kid and got into Nintendo video games, and I've watched my fair share of Studio Ghibli. I imagine that is the chief thing that's mentioned in these personal statements is anime, manga, Studio Ghibli stuff. Spirited Away, I imagine, is typed more in those personal statements than any other thing.
Yeah. What about a kimono? Did the
I'm partial to wearing one.
Geisha get a mention at all? You interested in Japanese dance?
No, imagine if that was my opening line. Hi, I'm Alun, 30 years old, and I would love to see a kimono live there where it happened. So once you've got all those bare documents, mate, you've got to book an appointment online. You can go to London or to Edinburgh. You have to apply from your home country. So for me, those are the two options. I made an appointment for like 10:30 in the morning.
Prime time.
Got on a train nice and early, got to Edinburgh, got to the door of the consulate at 10:25, knocked on the door and said, hi, I've got an appointment. They said, what's your name? I said, it's Alan. They said, you're 5 minutes early for your appointment. And I went, yeah, I'm 5 minutes early. And they went, we can't let you in until it's time for your appointment. And so I just stood on the door of the consulate underneath the Japanese flag for 5 minutes waiting, and bang on 10:30 the door opened and I was let in. It was incredible.
That's absolutely amazing. I mean, very, very famously, there was an article a couple of years ago that was published in a Japanese newspaper, but a national train company issued a public apology, basically, because one of their trains left a station 20 seconds early. And I mean, if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about Japanese culture, then I don't know what will. But that's amazing. So you got let in. What were you wearing?
I dressed a little bit smart. I had a little shirt on, but not too smart for them to think that I was fuddy-duddy and wasn't pretty cool to have in the country. I always think like going to an embassy to try and get a visa is a bit like going on a first date, where I'm trying to be I'm like, I'm cool, I'm relaxed, please give me a visa. But, yeah, hey. But I went in, it was a nice conversation. They basically just took my documents, and then because it was over Easter, it took a little bit longer. I think from handing my visa in to being able to pick it up, it was about 7 or 8 days.
I mean, that is so fast. I think that's so fast. And I wonder, don't feel like you have to know this answer, but there must be a quota, right, of people that are from the UK that are able to get visas into Japan. Now, I would be quite surprised if it's as many as a couple of thousand.
Yeah, well, you were so right, but it's recently increased by a massive amount. So I don't have the specific numbers. We can write them in the description. But the quota that used to be the case a few years ago is now drastically increased.
Oh, just to rub salt into the wound, just to rub soy sauce into the wound.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man. I mean, tell me about the feeling when you went to collect your passport. You opened it up, and there it was. That because it is a paper. An insert, isn't it, into your passport?
Yeah, I picked it up, but I was still not. I was invited back. They were like, "Oh, come and pick up your visa on the 23rd," or they said book a visa collection appointment.
Yeah,
but I was still a little bit concerned that I'd get there and be like, "Oh, your visa's being denied, but here's your passport back." You leave your passport with them. So I still had a little bit of concern. And then I got there and they were like, okay, can you pay your £16 visa fee? Here's your visa. And I saw it and I was like, oh, yes. And I was like, yeah, I'll just pay on card, please. And they were like, no, cash only.
You're joking.
And then you have that moment where I was like, I'd booked an appointment. I was in Edinburgh for that day. I was like, okay, I'm going to go get cash right now. I promise I'll be back right now. And don't rip the page out of my passport or anything. Just still let me have the visa. I'll bring cash straight back right now. And then I had to get cash, brought it back, £20, £4 change, bought a coffee on the way home. That whole story that you already know. Very, very nice to have the insurance of a visa, that knowledge that I can continue to travel, and if I need some more money, if all our Patreon subscribers jump ship and one of us says something offensive and no one wants to listen to Tripology anymore, I can do a working holiday in Japan. That's very beautiful.
Well, I just think what an amazing moment in your life. What an amazing time in our friendship. What an amazing time for Tripology, because in terms of social media content, I mean, Japan, along with probably places like India, are at the very, very top of the tree, in my opinion. So I can't wait for it, man. I can't wait until you get over there. You're going to do what all the other expats do, which is fucking wear really large platform shoes and dye their hair blue.
Yeah, well, look forward to that. It's going to be a very, very different time on Tripology. So that's my working holiday visa, man. Like I say, what a beautiful thing to have. And there's going to be obviously, I've got 12 months to enter Japan from now. So sometime in the future, all those Japan fanatics out there, there's going to be some good Tripology content. But I want to, before we go, talk a little bit about you, mate, because it's been a while since we've talked. Every time you said, Alan, can we have a chat? I've said, I'm busy waiting for my passport back. So what's going on with you, mate? Where are you right now?
Well, I might look the same as I did last week, but I'm actually somewhere much further south. I took the decision just 3 days ago to fly all the way from Auckland on the North Island, all the way down to Queenstown in the South Island, because it's getting to that time of year where people are going to start moving south. The snow's going to come in the next few months, and then the ski season's going to get going. So it's a very crucial time in New Zealand at the moment, because if you do want to find work and you want to find accommodation in these very small, busy towns, there's probably a couple of weeks where, if you miss the boat, then you'll be out on your ear. So I'm down in Queenstown, mate, somewhere that I've been before. I did venture out for a little Ferg burger earlier, you'll be pleased to know. But I'm currently sat at the reception of a hostel called the Flaming Kiwi Backpackers. Can you see it there? Down in Queenstown. They have been very accommodating indeed, and they basically let me take over the reception desk for the show.
Wow. So I didn't actually know. You told me at the top of the show that you'd done a reception takeover. Mm-hmm. But in my head, I thought that you had exchanged working behind the reception for a private room in which to record. I didn't for a second think that you were now at the reception desk.
I am. So hopefully there's no late check-ins, because there'll be a guest appearing on the show.
Right. So, yeah, of course, it's late. It's PM for you and it's AM for me. So you're like, just the door of the hostel's locked and you're hoping no one will arrive.
Fingers crossed. I mean, we're not due any guests, and I'm going to have to make it up on the fly as to the checking in routine. But this is it, mate. I mean, how accommodating is that? It's a wicked hostel as well. They got some premium cabins out the back and some dorms, and it's a very familial feel with nice sort of common room and all that sort of stuff. It is lovely to be back in a hostel. I mean, you've now spent quite a bit of time out of one. I don't know if you're itching to get back into one, but yeah, all exciting things ahead. It's not so much the Flaming Kiwi outside; it's more like the freezing Kiwi, because it's the temperature's dropped. It actually looks quite similar to where we were living in Canada, mate, in terms of the flora and fauna at the moment. Nice autumn colours.
Well, that's amazing. I don't know much about ornithology. Don't know whether a kiwi would fare better in a hot condition where it might begin to flame, or a cold condition where it might begin to freeze. But those are the kind of things that I love to ponder. I'm happy that you're somewhere where you can buckle down and do a bit of work. I'm actually thinking, I'm about to jet off to the Philippines. The next time I speak to you, I'll likely be there or in transit to get there. So I'm doing all sorts of admin on my end. I think in the Lost and Found section in Patreon, I'm going to talk about booking a flight and that whole process. So if you're interested in that, people should head over to Patreon.
Patreon.com/Tripology podcast. Now, you didn't mention, mate, that whether you have to speak any Japanese or not. Is that something they ask on the application form?
Very uninterested in whether I spoke Japanese or not. I actually said, I got to be honest, I'm not very good at learning languages and I probably won't try. But I'd still like to come and enjoy the sushi.
Well, maybe in the Patreon section as well, I'll teach you a few phrases that I've managed to remember from my time in Japan. Otherwise, guys, head over to @Tripology Podcast on Instagram. There's some cool stuff going on there all the time. Yeah,
and if you've got any questions for me and Adam, like, Alan, you talk about Japan a lot, but I'm thinking about going there. What should I do? What did your ChatGPT said? Mine's broken. You can ask that over tripologypodcast.com, hostel common room contact form.
And if you want me to come and take over your hostel reception, then just flick us a message on Instagram. I'd love to speak to you. I'm a professional.
Tripology Podcast, and we'll see you all on the next week's episode of Tripology, where I'll be in transit, Adam will be in Queenstown. We'll be talking about all sorts of crazy things. It's going to be exciting. Tell your friends to meet you there, and we'll see you next week.
See you there. Bye.